Good evening and welcome to the Monday, July 1st Nominations and Appointments Committee meeting. My name is Chris Miller, Counselor for District 6, excuse me, and beside me is Counselor Vanessa Campos, District 1, and Counselor Wesley Butler, District 4. Tonight we have one interview for the reappointment to the Planning Commission, Mr. Wayne Beeler. And I'll say this, I know I don't need to explain this to you, Wayne, but for the viewing audience, the process is that we will take turns asking you questions, and then when we're done, if you have any questions for us, you're free to ask. And obviously, you know, it's a very casual setting, nothing formal. I'll start off only because I know you've been on the Planning Commission for 21 years. Congratulations. Have you served the longest or?
He served the longest. He was 32 years before he passed away.
Wow, that's incredible. Of the 21 years that you've been on the Planning Commission, what are the things that you feel work well and the things that you feel could be improved?
Well, the biggest thing is definitely keeping someone in the planning office. I've been here 20 years. I think I've seen 6 people in the planning office when I was 10. So, you know, that's a big thing. Now, Simon's with us now and he's doing a wonderful job. And I think we can actually move something forward now. Because we also hired somebody else in the planning department now. So I'm not very clear on that.
I think there's a position that's open.
Yeah. And so the biggest thing is yes, we do have someone in the planning department. But we need 2 things. We need a planner and we need somebody to do the paperwork. Right now, most of the paperwork's being handled by Emily in zoning.
Okay.
And she has enough to do. Like today, I came in this morning to sign paperwork for an escrow release. Emily handled all of that because she's the only one who's been consistently here for the past 2 years. So they kind of dealt to her because the planning reviews are done by a consultant. And the consultant is fantastic. And, but I also agree with him that the consultant should not be doing the minutes, should not be, you know, scheduling appointments, should not be scheduling special meetings, should not be, you know, all that kind of stuff. We definitely need someone on staff to do that. And Simon has been doing that. In fact, on July 11th, the chairman of the West Reading Planning Commission will be coming in to meet our planning commission to talk about how our upcoming comprehensive plan is going to fit in with the one that they just finished.
Oh.
And we've never done that before.
That's really good to hear.
So yeah, there was a newspaper article a few weeks ago that mentioned that they completed it. And the online version of the newspaper article linked right to their plan.
Mm-hmm.
And on page 7 of that plan, it says, you know, one of the things they want to do is have this unified Penn Street corridor. Well, this is something we've been talking about for at least 12 years. With the help of Simon, we've actually been able to do this now, to actually get to talk face to face with West Reading. Biggest problem is setting up a meeting. Turns out their borough council meetings are on Tuesdays, like our regular planning meetings. So, but that kind of gives you an overview. When we do have somebody here on staff that's here in the administration, how well things can go. But when we don't, it is a complete disaster.
Sure.
Because I wind up doing minutes, I wind up doing the resolutions, I wind up doing the annual report.
So I mean, that makes sense. If you don't have support for the board, it doesn't function the way it should, but for the actual board, do you feel that the board moves in, what's the word? Not competent, but that it
Oh.
moves well?
I believe we have one of the greatest, um, collection of people now. We have Peter Fry from Brentalk, who's just unbelievably brilliant. I think the guy is just unbelievably brilliant. We have James Harris, who, I believe is with Appts. So he knows about interacting with children and things like that. Danny DeCoyo's on, he owns his own business here in the city of Reading. Mr. Who else is on? Wilson Vesey, who used to be, on the board of directors for the school district.
Right, who just was reappointed.
Yeah, and, I think I'm missing somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, Nelson who actually has an engineering degree from Ukraine. So he has a very interesting background that brings something, something very interesting to the board.
Okay, that's good to hear. Right, I'm gonna pass it along to my fellow counselors.
I would thank you. Thank you for serving as long as you are and want to serve again. My first question is, since being on this commission, are there any zoning ordinances that you feel are outdated or there's no need for them right now?
Actually, council is going to get a stack of paperwork about this tall with zoning revisions in the next week or so, that we've been working on for 2 years.
Is there one that you're really would be proud of that we passed at wait?
I think probably the biggest one is the, parking and loading ordinance. It's a whole new section that's going to be added to the zoning ordinance. That's going to, relate to parking, how the, parking authority interacts with the city, and a few other things. Jerome, our consultant, Shannon, the zoning hearing board blighted property consultant, and, the former director and the current director of the Reading Parking Authority, went over this ordinance, so that it wasn't one of these things where it was a one-sided thing that we just came up with what we wanted. We actually brought the Reading Parking Authority in to give their input, and they actually sent us correction.
So you have a good relationship with the health department authority.
We just had a workshop meeting 2 months ago where the new executive directors come in. And we had a long list of questions for him. He stayed with us for 90 minutes or almost 2 hours answering questions. And I believe we have a very, very good relationship with the parking authority. I had a very good relationship with Mr. Matt's previous person, but I think it's even better with Mr. Batista because he has a financial background that might be very helpful. Because we asked a lot of questions about, for example, why is the front of Washington Street garage have the elevators don't work, the windows are broken. It's just not very conducive to inviting people downtown with the condition that parking garages are in. And he was very upfront. He's like, well, first thing is, in the parking garages that we have 3 different companies that run the elevators. So if you're asking one to come in to fix one, that doesn't necessarily mean they can fix the one across the street. The other thing is that they're moving towards going from glass to fiberglass, so windows can't be broken. And like I said, it was very, very upfront. We've never received that kind of, transparency from the parking authority. I used to go to the parking authority, meetings when I worked for the Reading Eagle 21 years ago. And getting anything out of them was nearly impossible. It was like a constant, and it was the same thing with the school district, and the same thing with a few other places. Hopefully, one of the things that with I being on the I and a few others being on the planning commission, we're actually trying to get a better work relationship with the school district, with the parking authority, with with other people that we should be dealing with all the time. That was all my questions.
Thank you for that input, for sharing that, and you saying it, your relationship with others and how this others, and we wouldn't know, so we're not in that role, so. Thank you for sharing. The only question I have is, in all these years that you've served in the planning commission, what do you enjoy the most about it?
I just like seeing how the city is progressing from a city that, when I moved here 36 years ago, was basically empty and bankrupt, to a city that now we have so much work to do on the planning commission. Yeah, it's very exciting that we have so much work to do, because people are converting buildings downtown and trying to do things that haven't been tried before. And a lot of that has to do with our consultants saying, we got to be trying these things, like our adaptive reuse ordinance, which we just passed, or is it coming across your desk?
There's a public hearing on it tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the adaptive reuse allows a few things to happen. It allows these industrial buildings to be more easily converted into something else. But it also gives the city an overview. See, we're having a big fight with Berks County Planning Commission over this, because they're like, well, if you have a change of use for a large building, it's not land development. And we're like, sure, it's land development, because if you're changing the use, then oftentimes you have to change the sprinkler systems. You have to change you have to reconfigure the rooms. You have to do a lot of work to make some of this stuff work. And we also want to make sure that, for example, the fire marshals are very involved with us in looking at stuff and going, oh, well, with this change of use, they're going to have to like add a fire tank. For example, the old Vince's Towing at 5th and Burnham. That's scheduled to become a car wash. Jeremy was very, he wanted to make sure that we added a new fire hydrant because he felt that there wasn't enough capacity down there. And of course, did exactly what he said. These are the type of things we are looking for. On the other hand, we had the old Berkshire building, Berkshire Hotel. Alvernia supposedly is in control of that. And we passed that through Jeremy. And he's like, no, everything's good because, you're not increasing you're not increasing the number of people living there by so much. However, we did have to make them go through the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for their sewer lines. Because the increased water flow, because that people actually living there is going to be much greater than it just being a office building. And these are the type of things that we never really had control of before, but we now have much better control so that public works can work better down at the sewer treatment plant and the water authority, and work better to know how much water they need to supply.
Mhm. Thank you.
I just want to follow up on one thing, and I know this was probably pre you being on the board, but when you were talking about adaptive reuse, I know that existed, like with projects like Riverloft, where commercial space was converted to residential. Was there already something in place?
Yes, we have expanded it.
Okay,
And that, for example, in the commercial core, you no longer need a special exception
okay,
for adaptive reuse. So Riverloft is the one down on the south
South,
street here.
Willow 6.
Okay. I would have to look at the paperwork. There might have been a chance that that was also converted through a system called
Well, there were others.
managed community planning module. And I think most of that stuff was taken care of through that because of Hurricane Agnes.
Right, but there were projects like the silk mill too.
Yeah.
And that wasn't affected by Agnes, so
Yeah,
I'm sure there had to be something on.
yeah, there was something on the books, but also with that, they didn't have to go through the planning.
Okay,
They only had to go through buildings and trades. So we never got a chance to look at, do the sidewalks need to be replaced? Do they need new curbing? Do they need all the things that Public Works would be looking? Now that it goes through the planning commission, we kind of can more easily bring together all the different facets in city hall, because sending it directly to buildings and trades can be a problem because they don't always talk to the client, to public works. But we have a representative from Public Works that comes to all of our meetings. The other thing that of course changed over the years is that we now have the one-stop shop, which makes it a lot easier to deal with applicants, because we can kind of lay out the process to them and explain to them, well, first go to zoning, and then you come to the planning commission, then you go to buildings and trades. It's much easier to lay it out, because when I first moved here 30 years ago, trying to figure out the process was nearly impossible. My father wanted to buy the empty lots at the corner of 9th and Green. And at that time, there were blighted buildings on those properties. And my father was like, well, what we'll do is we'll tear 2 of them down, put a parking lot in, and then restore the other 2 buildings. And building the trades at that time, and the zoning department said, no, you can't be tearing stuff down, because it lessens the tax base. And, that's not the type of thinking because my father always said, the biggest thing about any place in the United States is parking. If you don't have parking, people aren't going to live there. Now with the zoning changes that we've made, we're actually, a lot of the new developments that we're doing. Oh, this is another thing that we weren't able to do for a long time. is do, lot annexations. So that when you have a building, up until recently, you had to keep the lot separate from it. Now with all these zoning changes, we can actually take that empty lot, annex it to the building with like 3, 4 apartments in it and use that as parking, and then the person can own the whole thing. And it also saves on a lot of zoning non-conformance and a whole bunch of other things that ties the zoning. I mean, when the zoning board used to meet personally in this room, 5, 6 hour meetings for nothing. Nothing.
Any other questions? Wayne, did you have any questions for us?
No, I just wanted to, everything that I actually wanted to mention to you, I think I said. And look forward to what we call the phase 1 and the phase 2 zoning amendments. And phase 3 will be on your desk by the end of the year. I forget phase 3 is daycares. Which is something, we need to take a look at, because, the zoning hearing board does a lot of stuff with daycares. And, I think there's the next one going in that we're working.
Is that
Carpenter and Franklin.
child daycare or
Yeah.
senior daycare?
Child daycare is what mostly comes to the zoning hearing board that we have to deal with. So for example, the old fish market at 317 Franklin Street, they are in front of us right now for a change of use from actually the furniture store, but a retail use to a daycare center. But as soon as that came across Jerome's desk and he started sending out the emails about, we're looking at this, Jeremy Searfalls, emailed us right away. He said, these people have massive violations for their sprinkler system and fire alarm system. We have to make sure that all gets fixed beforehand, and we're working on it.
Okay, I know you've been through this multiple times, but
Yeah,
the process will be that we will discuss your application. You will be notified either way. Thinking you will be approved, but I can't guarantee this because I can't read the minds of my fellow counselors. But in either case, Shelley will follow up with you.
sure. Yeah, Shelley and I have worked very closely together for years, even outside of.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Thank you for coming in,
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
and thank you for your past service over the last 21 years.
It's been my pleasure.
Good.
I actually love serving. Love serving on the planet.
Good. That's good to hear.
So, well, thank you very much. Have a
Have a good evening.
great evening.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Like the way thing. Like, when he was talking about, parking. Like, everything is about parking, especially at what he said, so people aren't gonna. Unless there's enough parking, and, the little things, like our parking garages, not all of them, but. The one that the elevators don't work, I didn't know that. So, I like, seems that a lot of knowledge, definitely expertise, been on it for 20 years. So I would agree.
I agree. I know we've heard from an applicant or two probably that they're only reapplying until other people show interest, but Wayne sounds like he genuinely wants to continue to be of service here, so I think that's important.
I'm in agreement. Obviously, Wayne has a lot of knowledge that came across. And that's important to know where things are coming from in order to move forward. So he has a history with the board. I don't know if I agree with the parking comments, only because I think that for cities to become self-sustaining, there's a part of the population that doesn't rely on cars, but relies on either personal transportation like bikes or public transportation like buses. And I think somehow that needs to be worked into the equation along with the car factor, but that's just my opinion. I just think it's something that needs to be considered as the city moves forward, that hopefully one day not everybody will need a car to get around, because if they did, with a growing population, it could become a major problem. It's a problem now, but I mean, there has to be an alternative to creating parking lots for every single person in the city. So I understand where he's coming from, but I think in the future, sort of have to add a second part to that equation. But that's a whole other conversation. Back to Wayne. Is everybody in agreement for Wayne to be reappointed to the planning commission?
Yeah.
Okay. Next then, item 2.
Before we go to that,
Sure.
he was mentioning about the planning commission and the building and third trades. I just need clarity, because he said before used to go straight to the building and trades, now the planning commission, what is that? How do these offices different? What role does the planning commission?
It depends on the project.
Okay,
So if somebody buys the property next door to me, that's a single family residence right now, and they want to make it 4 units, then it has to go through a specific process. If somebody buys the house next to me and it's a single family and they're keeping it a single family, but they want to upgrade their electric and add central air conditioning. Now they don't have to go to zoning planning, they only have to go to building and trades, because that's what they're doing. So it just depends on the property and what the owner
project.
intends to do with it.
when does the planning commission come into play? Like when would they get involved?
They get involved with new development, so if there is a vacant lot,
And change in use.
yes, and someone wants to build something brand new, they will review the plans and, how everything sets up and connects to all the utilities, all of that stuff. And like he said, with the big factory buildings, if it's a manufacturing use and someone wants to make it, loft apartments or, whatever, that would go for the commission as well. It goes to both zoning and
I was gonna
planning.
say, so the commission works with the zoning.
Yeah, they work pretty closely with the zoning board. Most projects, if they need one, they need both.
So what makes them different?
Zoning deals with the type of use of the property. So whether it's a retail or a residential or manufacturing, the planning commission looks at the actual plan. The architectural drawings, how it's set up, the ingress egress, if there's central air, if it's got, how it looks on the outside, if it's got trees, if it's got, they look at.
And the inside.
Yep, so they'll review the entire project. For, like Wayne said, Public Works, does it need new sidewalks? The arborist looks at it for what kind of trees or shrubs they should have on the outside. They work with Tim, they work with, I'm trying to think, water, to make sure there's a water capacity, sewer capacity, all of those things. They do.
So.
They coordinate a lot of that. Mhm.
So when you were saying that it would be very helpful to have another staff, would that have to be a position that was open and people apply for it, and then?
From the way he sounded, it was, that
Sure,
we've had one city planner for many years.
But before
But
that,
before that, there was a whole squad of planners,
a whole department.
that did 5,
6.
6 maybe. As people left, They were not replaced. We were going into financial
Oh,
distress and, we stopped hiring to replace people. City planners would actively say, here's this property, what does the city want it to become? And then work towards making that happen, where now we're more reactive to developers coming in and saying, I want this property, here's what I want to do. So it's a little bit different than it used to be. What Wayne is talking about is someone who's more like the board administrator. They set the appointments, they do the applications, they review they coordinate all of that, take the minutes. That would be a new position because the planner is not that person,
But there is a
although
position-
they're performing that now.
I think there's a position that's open now for a planner.
I believe so.
But it wouldn't be like a staff that does like the minutes and all that, type of thing. Or is that? would that be
I'm
the
not
same
sure
thing?
what the job descriptions are anymore. I don't
I don't
know.
know how it's worded either.
Would we see that in council? Like, will we have to approve it and then see the job
I
description?
don't think so.
If it's in the position ordinance already, then I don't think you need, unless you request it. You can always make those requests.
I've heard that there's something, circulating, I don't know, like, just like him, I don't know where we stand on that. But I was just inquiring about the staff, like, how do we go about that? Because it seems like they're figuring it out themselves, but it is quite a task.
Bring it up in budget.
Yeah, when Jamal does,
I wanted to know that's something. that-
when the community development department reviews their budget, that's when you can start asking those questions for next year.
Okay, thank you for, clarifying that, because he was talking, I was thinking that's, and it's important for me to understand how these things operate, because I'm not in either of those boards, so how does this come together?
Yeah, and zoning and planning, generally speaking, don't have council representatives because if there are appeals or any kind of questions, then you sit, in those appeal hearings. So you kind of have to try to be a little bit separate
It would be a conflict.
from those. Yeah.
But in the planning commission, isn't the council there, no?
So there's a liaison where you could go and observe and, make comment, but you don't get a vote.
Oh, you're not a member.
Yeah, you're not a voting member on the
Okay, so
planning
you're the liaison,
commission.
okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And reappointment recommendation.
I think we're good. You all decided that you will support Wayne.
Yep.
I will do that. Resolution.
Review pending applications memo, board authority, commission openings, and board authority commission membership.
So the only thing, I got back today from my vacation, the second person who applied for the Citizens Initiative Commission is through the background and is now in the mayor's office for his review. And once we have Wayne handled, I believe we are caught up again until we get more applications. Yes, because council has not yet determined what's going on with the redevelopment authority appointment. That's the only other one that's still pending. So we may or may not have another meeting of July. It just depends.
Hopefully by me.
Me too.
Summer break.
I'm gonna send an email, in case I forget. But for the youth commission, I was talking to Wesley of how to recruit more youth. And I know there's the school district work group. We are supposed, I don't know where we're at with having a school board member.
I sat beside, school board president, Lean
Mm.
Betts at the Amigo Awards. And we talked about it. So she, requested that information be sent, which was sent 2 weeks ago. Last week?
No, last week.
Last week.
Yeah, I sent it. She-
That's right. Right. And then,
I got in touch.
so it's in the works.
Okay.
They just wanted a little bit more background. And I think we also needed to wait for Shelley to come back from vacation too, because you're the advisor, the
Well.
liaison.
Yeah, staff liaison like I am.
So-
Others.
And if they had, further questions, you'd be the person.
Right, no, I
Um,
agree.
Right, and I mean, she hasn't responded, so after, getting the information.
Right.
Not yet.
I
It's
think,
been
I
2
think they'll
weeks
want to
now.
talk amongst the board before they respond.
Right, I would imagine.
So we could probably set a date to circle back, once if there's like a board meeting, hey, where are we?
I think they meet the 4th,
Monday, yeah.
is it Monday? I thought it was Wednesday. I don't know,
Wednesday,
whatever it
probably.
was, when my kids were in school, I used to be able to see the council meetings and the school board meetings.
Ah.
So, I don't remember, they may have changed it since then as well. My kids are out of school for a while now.
Well, but I think that's great, honestly, that's getting, something moving, but, we also want to look into organizations in the city, like nonprofits that are specific with working with youth. I know there's Edna, but I wonder what others are out there that might be missing. Because I've heard of Bert's team, can we get like a list, so we can start reaching out and kind of pushing that out to these organizations? So I know I'm gonna miss a few, I don't know them all. It'll be good to share information and talk about what is it about and how we can join and then have some sort
Okay.
of recruitment. Did you need an email, Shelley, or you're good? Cause
Oh, no, I just jotted down.
okay, thank you. I was thinking of sending it to Linda and you together just so that I could remember everything.
Nope, I'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Nothing.
Motion to adjourn? Okay. Meeting adjourned.